Welcome back to the GTN show. This week with just myself, but I've got quite a debate for you guys today. Is Alex Yee about to take the short course throne from Alistair Brownlee? Yeah, Alistair Brownlee is often regarded as the best short course triathlete we have ever seen, or at least he is by me, by many others actually. Is that about to change? We also have a very scary crash from pro triathlete Laura Siddall during Ironman Brazil. A very powerful response from Emma Pallant with regards to a photo showing bleeding from her period during a race. And we have the first double amputee to the top of Mount Everest. Well, yes, today I am here on my own, and that is because we have been very busy here at GTN. Just this weekend, we're actually racing one another down on the Cornish coastline in a swim run event, Heather versus James versus myself, and you can watch that video this weekend. But quite rightly, the guys are taking a bit of R&R, a bit of rest before more madness kicks off as we start flying around the world to Challenge Roth and various places like that. But yeah, look forward and stay tuned for that video. But now on to Reacts, things we spotted on social media this past week, and starting with some sad news coming from Gustav Eden, who sadly has lost his mother to cancer. On his post on Instagram, he said, "Life is unfair, but I am one of the luckiest. I was born to the best parents in the best country in the best time to be alive. Even when my mother was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, I felt somehow lucky. Lucky because I have had the opportunity to truly love someone enough to feel as sad as I did." He goes on, but yeah, obviously incredibly sad news, and deepest sympathies go out to Mikkel, Gustav, and of course the rest of the family. Moving on, also some rather sad and quite scary news. This one came from Laura Siddall after racing Ironman Brazil at the weekend and pretty much just going MIA. She just completely disappeared off the tracker. No one really knew how she was, where she was. It turns out she had a bike crash. She's not entirely sure what happened. In fact, she doesn't remember any of it other than waking up in hospital. She was obviously knocked unconscious. She did suffer from some slight bleeding on the brain. She had a CT scan. It appears she is okay and stable and is okay to travel now and get home. But she has posted up a video on social media basically explaining to people that may be worried, and of course thanking people for their well wishes and messages to make sure she's okay. But yeah, speedy recovery. That is incredibly scary and obviously could have been a lot worse. Moving on, Christian Blumenfeld also with Gustav Eden, busy on a photo shoot with On Running, looking like they've got a lot of new clothing coming out, and obviously in a fantastic landscape there. Now on to this post, which has involved Emma Pallant over the past week and has caused a lot of traction, and quite rightly so. Now this was shared on a number of social media channels. Now, this photo was posted of Emma Pallant, and Xavier Coppoc jumped in to say, not the most flattering picture of Emma Pallant. Surely you can crop it a bit better. And of course, they are just concerned and looking out for Emma Pallant, and that's very kind of them. But Emma Pallant has jumped in and defended this photo, and in fact is supporting it being live and out there. Her response is saying to Xavier, "Thanks for caring, but definitely something I'm not shy to talk about because it's the reality of females in sport. My period comes over a month in between, and there will be one day where it is super heavy. I pray it won't be on race day, but every now and then it is. No matter what tampon I've experimented with, for anything over 3 hours, it's too heavy. So just as someone might get gut issues in a race, I have to suck it up and give what I have and not be afraid to talk to women who have the same problem." So yeah, hats off Emma, and actually it's something we want to discuss in further. We have done already on GTN, so make sure you check out those videos which Heather has done in very good detail and good depth, but it's something we're going to cover again and hopefully talk to Emma in that video. Now this one did make me chuckle. It was between Patrick Langer and Ruth Assel. I actually missed this at the time, but Challenge Roth obviously on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, said that the course changed and you now go down Solar Hill, the famous hill which everyone crowds on and cheers the athletes on. It appears Ruth Assel believed that and was very gullible, and Patrick Langer has responded saying, "I checked for you, we do ride up Solar Hill." just to be sure, winky face, which is reassuring. I mean, it'd be sad to lose that. And finally, we've got a really cool event which is kicking off this week. It's called Eurotrip. It has happened before. In fact, I believe this is in the second or third year now, but it's a really interesting format. So essentially, as the name suggests, it's a trip across Europe. Last year, they went from Bruges to Cologne, and this year they will pick up from that finish point in Cologne and carry on to Strasbourg. It is running, and you do it as a team of 6 to 8 participants with 2 women in each team. And you essentially can pick how long you run for, and you basically just try and cover that distance as quickly as possible and do this trip across Europe on your feet, running, which is really cool. So we actually have Andy Blow from Precision Fuel and Hydration as part of one of those teams. He's in the Sweat Elite, or the On Sweat Elite team. So we're going to be avidly following that and hopefully getting something from him to share in the show next week. But yeah, I fully suggest checking it out. It's pretty cool. Now on to the Tri news, and this news broke just after filming our show last week. Now Rick Hoyt, the man who was pushed in a wheelchair by his father, Dick, to many iconic Ironman World Championship and Boston Marathons, sadly died on Monday of last week. Now, Rick, who had cerebral palsy and as a result was quadriplegic, participated in more than 1,000 duathlons, triathlons, and marathons with his father using a custom racing chair for Rick. In fact, apparently Rick told his father that when they did their first ever event together, it felt like his disability had disappeared. Now, in a statement from the Hoyt family, they said, "It is with profound sadness that the Hoyt family announces the passing of our beloved brother and uncle, Rick, this morning. Rick was 61 years old. Rick passed away due to complications with his respiratory system. As so many knew, Rick, along with our father, Dick, were icons in the road race and triathlon world for over 40 years and inspired millions of people with disabilities to believe in themselves, set goals, and accomplish extraordinary things." Yeah, you can definitely say that. Yeah, again, deepest sympathies go to the Hoyt family. They have definitely left a huge impression on the triathlon and endurance world. And moving on, the London Triathlon, which is a huge event here in the UK, in the heart of the UK, is set to be rebranded as Challenge London as they partner with the Challenge family. Now, not only is it the name changing, they also have a whole new distance being added to the event. So in addition to the already very popular super sprint, sprint and Olympic distances, they're now going to have a middle distance at the new, now named, Challenge London. That is going to be obviously over a 1.9 kilometre swim, a 90 kilometre bike and a 21.1 kilometre run. We don't know exactly how that course is going to look, but with it being in the heart of London, I imagine it'll be pretty spectacular. Now, we've got some very impressive news here. We have the first double amputee to the top of Everest. Now, this is Hari Buddha Majar, who is a Gurkha soldier veteran who sadly lost both his legs in Afghanistan due to an IED explosion. He set out to climb Everest on the 17th of April, exactly 13 years since that accident. He was supported by a team of Nepalese climbers, and he says that after this accident, his life was just completely finished. With the loss of his legs, he battled with alcoholism and depression, but has absolutely turned that around. And I mean, this is so inspirational. He actually had different prosthetic limbs for the condition. So you could see some of the prosthetic limbs actually were suited to ice, almost like pick ices for the feet. So just absolutely mind blowing. So hats off, very, very impressive. All right, now moving on to my favorite section of the show, What's the Tech? Now, Ekoi are claiming a first by introducing 3 new men's clothing collections that feature Outlast. Now, Outlast is apparently a technology that's been used by NASA to cope with extreme temperature variations in space. They say that the Outlast collections allow proactive temperature regulation, guaranteeing maximum comfort during exercise, a massive reduction in temperature and an increase in performance, and apparently has been tested and used already by the Israel Premier Tech cycling team. They say that this technology isn't anything new. It's been around since the 1990s, but it's the first time that we have seen it in the cycling world. Very interesting stuff. Now, also, we have an update to the Speeco custom bars. You may remember those monocoque bars that we saw and have seen a lot of the pro triathletes and also amateur age group athletes now using too. They have made an update to those bars and also the process in which they're made, making them an even better fit, more customization options, and a faster process. So, since their first launch back in 2020, this update now brings the TTX and the Tri-X bars. The TTX are a full UCI legal bar and just within the UCI regulations, I believe by about 5 millimeters. And then the Tri-X, which is fully devoted to triathlon with obviously zero regulations. Now the overall improvements apparently have led to far faster lead times. They can be produced within 6 to 8 weeks and with a rather unique price tag. So the TTX will come in at around 1,800 euros and the Tri-X will start at around 2,000 euros. Yikes. Now, we also have our Fizik competition winner. We had that competition about 3 weeks ago now, so it's time to announce the winner of the Trans-Zero Hydra Aeroweave Carbon shoes. Their choice of colour and obviously size. And the winner of those shoes is Christopher Booth. Congratulations to you. We will be in touch. Well, now on to the race results. Last week we joked about the fact that we had so much racing last week and this week would be a little bit lighter on the racing front. I may have lied because there is quite a bit, or at least there's a lot to talk about. Now, first off, we had Ironman Brazil. That was won by Pamela Oliveira on the women's side ahead of Mariana Andrade and Alexandra Watt in third. On the men's side, that was won by Luciano Taccone and Ronaldo Carlucci in second and Andre Lopez in third. The big race this weekend, though, had to be WTCS Cagliari. Now, it was Alex Yee that took the win here, making it 2 out of 2 WTCS races that he's taken part in this year that he has won. Obviously, he hasn't done all the events. There's been 3 WTCS events. He missed out on Yokohama, I believe. But that is 2 out of 2 for him, which is very impressive. And what is even more impressive is the fact that he came out just 15 seconds behind the leaders on the swim. In fact, he was shoulder to shoulder with Jonathan Brownlee and Leo Berger, the reigning world champion, which is just incredible. A real step up in swimming for Alex Yee. Held his own on the bike, and of course his run is just spectacular, and it came down to a real head-to-head race against Hayden Wilde, almost resembling those big battles between Alistair, Johnny Brownlee and Javier Gomez from back in the day, which has kind of got me thinking, is Alex Yee ready to take the throne from Alistair Brownlee? I've often considered, and I've said it quite openly here before, that Alistair Brownlee is the best short distance triathlete we have ever seen. And I'm not alone on that. I believe even Jan Frodeno has echoed my thoughts there. So is Alex Yee encroaching on that throne? He is currently ranked world number 1. He's 5th in the WTCS rankings because he's only raced 2 of the events. He's already a Commonwealth Games champion and an Olympic medalist at just 25 years old. And talking of just his running alone, Alistair Brownlee had a 10K or 10,000 metre track PB of 28:32, which is just phenomenal, and we often considered him being the best runner of the time back then. Yee's is 40 seconds quicker in a time of 27:51. He ran at a pace of 2:53 per kilometre over the 10K course in Cagliari that weekend. So what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Is Alex Yee the best short course triathlete we've ever seen, or is he encroaching on that title of Alistair Brownlee's? Also, of course, we had some absolutely phenomenal racing in the women's event. Georgia Taylor-Brown took the win there, ahead of Emma Lombardi in second and Taylor Spivey in third. Fantastic to see Georgia Taylor-Brown back on that top step. She hasn't had the best start to the season, well, by her standards at least, and she's been quite open in saying on an Instagram post that she has been worried about her swim and that she has been working to address that since March with some poor performances in the previous WTCS races, and so that has really been her focus, and she came out right at the front on the swim, and obviously all has paid off. We also had Gwen Jorgensen racing at the weekend. Obviously, she's attempting a big comeback to triathlon and attempting to also make the US triathlon team at the Paris Olympic Games. Sadly, things didn't go to plan or her way this weekend. She was, well, it seems well off the mark, came down way down out of the swim, unfortunately got lapped out on the bike and therefore unable to finish. So very sorry to see that. And someone that has been missing from the WTCS racing and we normally would see at the forefront of the racing is Laura Duffy. She actually posted up on a couple of weeks ago on social media, having been quite silent for a while, saying that she has had some knee issues. In fact, she had them in the previous year and was nursing them through a lot of the race season, and unfortunately is still sidelined with that knee injury, or in fact has sort of alluded to it actually getting worse towards the end and causing a tear to the patella tendon. So wishing her a speedy recovery, and really do hope we get to see her racing later in the season, because it's always fantastic seeing Laura Duffy racing. We also had Xterra Lake Garda. On the women's side, that was won by Helena Urbanova-Karaskova, ahead of Charlene Clavel and Marta Mendito. And on the men's side, we had Arthur Sirius taking the win, ahead of Sebastian Karabin in second. And in third, we had the men's mountain bike Olympic champion, Yaroslav Kulfe. Now, this was a big surprise of the day, actually, to see a pair of Uber bikers, the way of Sebastian Karabin and Yaroslav Kulverhay, exiting less than 4 minutes behind the leaders on the swim. By T2, Karabin and Kulverhay have managed to catch up to Sirius, who was actually nursing a slow puncture, having hit a rock towards the end of the bike. So he was nursing that in over the final couple of kilometres, but still had enough to be able to pull ahead on the run to take that win. And Kulverhay said that despite actually having the fastest bike split of the day, his bike legs apparently didn't show up. So I'd hate to know what damage he could have done. But as a result, also then suffered on the run. But quite impressive to see him stepping into the triathlon world, into Xterra, and already onto a podium. So, I mean, watch this space. That could be quite an exciting one. Final race, we had the Atfoland Triathlon. That was won by Maya Stage Nilsson, ahead of Svenja Toes and Rebecca Robic in third on the women's side. On the men's side, it was Tom Hoog that took the win, ahead of Michael Weiss, and in third, Maximilian Hammerell. Now, upcoming, we do actually have a couple of very big events coming up this weekend. We have Ironman Hamburg, which is also the male European champs, with a big showdown between Alistair Brownlee and Jan Frodeno. Now, this is actually the first time that we will have seen Jan Frodeno do a full distance, Ironman distance triathlon since his win in Kona in 2019. So it's going to be very interesting to see what performance he can produce in Hamburg, being in a home crowd, and also obviously with a big title up for grabs. Alongside him, obviously, Alistair Brownlee, who, well, had a slightly disappointing performance in Ibiza with a 6th place finish, and I'm sure he will be out to prove a point and show that he has what it takes. Obviously, this is, again, his first Ironman or full distance since his win in Ironman Sweden last summer, so he'll be likely very keen to try and prove himself against Jan Frodeno. Of course, they're not the only ones. We've got Dennis Chevreau, Christian Hogenhaug, Florian Anger, Matt Hansen, Peter Hemerick, Josh Amberger, amongst many others. But a name that is missing from that start list, who was speculated, is Max Newman. So, assuming he's not racing, unless that is a very, very last-minute entry. We also have the European Triathlon Championships in Madrid this weekend too, so we should see a big showdown between the likes of Mario Mola and Jonathan Brownlee, plus many others. Right, now moving on to take a look through all your wonderful photos, videos, and anything that you guys send in to us. Now, for this past month, we have been asking you to send in photos of you open water swimming. Perhaps your first open water swim. It definitely was our first open water swims this month, and I can say it's finally starts to heat up in our local lake, so I might be able to get away with not having to put all my thermals on next time I get in. So thank you so much for all those photos. We've got some of the final photos to go through this week. Now for June, we would like you to send in your transition photos. Many of you are lining up for races these next months, so why not send in your photos of your bike racked up in transition with all that gear on, whether you've got some cool custom hacks and bodges on your bike, whatever it may be, send it in to us and we'd love to feature them. Now you can use the photo uploader, links on screen right now, you can find that in the description down below. Now for some of those final open water swim ones. Now this one comes from Sophie. Not technically open water, but it is an open air pool. And it's a brand new pool, and it's quite a cool pool. It's from the Sea Lanes National Open Water Swimming Centre. They're pre-opening test swims for the brand new 50-metre pool in Brighton, which I didn't know of. Obviously Brighton here in the UK, and it looks absolutely amazing. I think we're going to have to go and check that one out. Next one from Marty. He says it's his third open water swim of the season, and that was in Ironman 70.3 Victoria. It didn't say how he got on, but he's looking strong there, so congratulations to you. Next one comes from Elliot from Shepperton Lake, also in the UK. He says, first club open water swim session of the season. Great to be back swimming with the Breakfast Club off for coffee and cake. To be honest, that is how our open water swim sessions, or how they revolve. We basically jump in, a little dip, and then off a coffee and cake or a full English breakfast. Priorities. Anyway, next one, this video from Beatrix from Worcester, again in the UK. Beautiful weather, but what's not pictured is the chap who got attacked by a swan, but then swiftly swam away. Never seen the lifeguard so active trying to lure the swans away with food. That must be, can be quite scary, swans. They can be very, very powerful. Next one from Christian. This is from the north of Copenhagen. I can imagine that's going to be quite cold. Second swim of the year was a 25-metre relay back in January. The first one was actually a 1500-metre earlier that day. And here's a video of them, I'm presumably in that 25-metre relay. And that looks like quite a cool kind of pool open water setting. Finally, this one from Nick from Milan, Italy. This is actually not him in it, but his partner. So he said, okay, so not actually the first open water swim of the season. We've actually done 2 races already, but this is the first training session in the open water. Here's my wife, Margarita, on the right, and friend and teammate Donata on the left, doing a long swim in preparation for the Ocean Man Catalika race on Saturday. As he says, sadly, my stunning face is behind the camera, / probably for the best. The water in this beautiful lake, it's a flooded quarry, wasn't too bad, a little fresh at the beginning, but easy to get used to. And it does look like a stunning quarry / lake. Well, as I've said, get those transition photos coming in using the photo uploader, link on screen right now, or in the description just down below. And now for our new section of the show, Say What? Thanks. Now, first off, I want to say a big thank you to all the lovely comments under my Ultra Trail Snowdonia video. Means a lot. There are also lots of lovely messages to James with regards to his injury and struggles that he has experienced. Some of you even suggested some events for James. As he's not here, I did contemplate actually selecting an event from some of the comments. Marathon des Sables? Yeah, why not? I'll see what he thinks anyway. Anyway, some cool comments under some of the videos this week. So, who's this from? Lacklanese Gate 5894 said, you should start a GTN racing channel. Wow, what do you guys think? Should we have a racing channel? I mean, James, Heather, and myself, we do come in every Monday morning and we always discuss all the racing. We often say we should just hit record and record our discussions and thoughts about all the racing. But maybe we should do something around that. Let us know in the comment section down below what you think. But comment that I want to discuss this week in more detail comes from Miguel Sayers 340. And this is under our draft busting video with the Race Ranger technology that we saw some of the pros using in Ibiza at the PTO event and in the World Multisport Long Distance Champs. Now, they have said, and actually we had a few comments in a similar vein to this, I seriously consider this technology as like shooting yourself in the foot. Apologies for the Spanish expression. For pros, it's rather pointless as they look like they live happily with the strategy of pulling and giving a stream to a group. You just have to hear them being interviewed and talking about this like every other aspect of the race. For age groupers, it's even worse. Take Kona, for example. The problem is, even in an in and out 180 kilometre ride, 4,000 athletes have no space to avoid bunches and drafting. This topic has been argued, and that's why Kona has been being moved to Nice. I'm happy they've developed it, but do we want it? Is there a market for it? I'm not sure there is. Well, we really, very thankful to you for your comments and really support this. And it's a great debate. What do you guys think initially? I want to unpick this a little bit. Now, firstly, let's talk about the pros. Now, when we talk about the pace lines we kind of get in the long distance events, what we mean by this is, yes, we try and ride in a group, but at the legal draft distances. Now, even at 12, 15, even at 20 meters, there is even a slight draft. And obviously, the closer you get, 12 meters, you're getting a better draft behind a rider than at 20 meters. Now, what we are trying to regulate is those people that, say the legal distance for a race is 12 meters, those people that are drifting up to 8 meters, 7 meters, 6 meters, and getting even more of a draft. So that is essentially, in short, what the device is trying to regulate and be more accurate in trying to decipher that information and who is in, who is out of that zone. Now, in regards to the age group racing, I fully understand, yes, I've seen some of the races and it is incredibly hard. And I think that, to be honest, has to come upon the race organizer. If they want to impose these regulations, these rules, then they need to make sure that the courses aren't as congested as they can be. And therefore, that would allow these devices to come into play and make the racing fair, and not mean that you're getting beaten by someone that maybe had drafted off another rider for the entire race. I hope that makes sense. I personally do see a big area and a big opening in the triathlon market for these devices, and I hope some other people do support me in that, and I think it's very exciting. So I'm hoping, watch this space, because I think there'll be some big things coming from that brand and that device in the near future. Now, that is all for the show this week. As I've mentioned already, we have got this swim run video, the big challenge between Heather, James and myself, coming up on the channel this week. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, watch the Xterra video where Heather and Anna from GMBN try and take on the pros at the Xterra UK event. Then I fully recommend checking that out. And of course, also the Ultra Trail Snowdonia video if you haven't done so already.